all the local providers, they maybe start sending the information in their own standard format, different excels and different information. It's not easy to fit all those different standards into one reporting section. That's where technically it become like an engineering problem. That's where we start looking at some kind of standards that can simplify all this process, and then we can make it as like a global view, so that much easier from the in terms of budgeting and planning as well.
We're working on new white glove workshops and boot camps to educate our engineers and other personas within the company, sustainability, and so on, to make sure that they understand how to deploy affordable and sustainable workloads across the organization. We're in several clouds, so you can imagine it's a pretty global enterprise operation at Shell.
There's 3 points here today that I wanted to touch on. We've seen how rapidly SaaS tools are proliferating. Every department is adopting new tools, often without centralized oversight. And so this leads to shadow IT. I put here so many tools, so little time to work on seeing what exactly is available out there or what we have access to. And then when multiple departments purchase SaaS independently, it's really hard to track where the budget is going.
The aim is that we want to help them to understand how we can do this, work with the community members on making sure they can better get together the wider data sets to get more bottom-up granular TCO products across the products and services, and help the business to fundamentally make value-based decisions on usage, workload placement, product viability, and not stick to the monthly reactive financial management reporting and insight cycles.
All right. Well, this is our September FinOps Virtual Summit. A couple of quick reminders as we get started. This is about community. We do want you all to turn on your camera if you can. Some of you will be talking as part of the presentation. We'll unmute you as you go. At the end, we will have time for everybody to share their thoughts. So please do consider unmuting later and sharing, but don't share confidential information. Do so in a brief manner, and please be respectful to your fellows. And try not to share sales pitches, regardless of your role. Share knowledge and information as we go. My name is J.R. Stormont, and I am the Executive Director of the FinOps Foundation, and really excited to be here. The summits, these virtual summits, are how the FinOps Foundation started really 5 years ago. We now do about 8 of these a year, and they're one of my favorite times of the month to come together with all the things that are happening in the community and bring together a nice group of people to talk about the challenges that we are all facing together. So the next 60 minutes during the presentation portion, we are going to focus on a few different areas. One is going to be hearing some stories from folks like Kumar at Heineken and Chris at Priceline and Tammy at Shell about what they're seeing in their FinOps practices in terms of extending beyond public cloud, using focus, and some of the impacts of the training work that they are doing there. The FinOps Foundation, for those of you who are new, is a part of the Linux Foundation. We are a nonprofit trade association focused on advancing the people who manage the value of cloud. Specifically, we work around 3 areas. The first is building community and connections. The second is education, training, certifications. And the third is bringing together best practices and standards and specifications through things like the FinOps framework, as well as the Focus Specification Project. We are a membership-based trade association, which means we are funded by membership from organizations, as well as training and certification from our community members. Big thing you may have heard about that is coming up, excited to get many of you there. Twice a year, we are doing, this year, we're doing FinOps X events. The next one is FinOps X Europe. This is the 11th to 14th of November. See, the big annual one that many of you attended is in June here in San Diego. This is the place to bring together not only the community, but it's a touch point and a launch point for a lot of the ongoing initiatives the community is working through in terms of new specification development, updates to various frameworks and materials and best practices, and really a place for you to advance your careers as individuals and as organizations. We've got a really great speaker lineup happening at this event, and we've done something a little differently from the US event, which we've actually given a little more time between speaker sessions and in networking for people to connect and come together. So we've got a great selection you can see on the website of speakers who are going to share knowledge around the key themes of Beyond Public Cloud and cost-aware product decisions, cloud sustainability, FinOps practice operations, FinOps for AI. But there's also a lot of time for coming together, networking, learning, sharing knowledge, and working with your peers. Thank you to all of our sponsors for the FinOps X Europe conference. The really cool thing that is going to be at this event and also happens at our San Diego event is that we're going to have cloud product leaders from all the major clouds on site that you're able to talk to and dig in around challenges that you may be having or ask questions around the billing data, the tooling, the ways the clouds operate. So this is a really great added benefit. As well, we've got, the majority of the FinOps platform providers who are out there, helping deliver products, and the service providers delivering services to their customers in these areas. So it's a great group of both practitioners and vendors who are bringing a ton of knowledge to the community. So a great opportunity to connect with all these folks there as well. And the topics this year are really building and evolving on what we saw at the San Diego event. So we're seeing a lot more progress on the Focus Initiative. We're going to be learning about actually how to implement that hands-on there. There's going to be labs. There's going to be a lot of work around FinOps for AI, specifically. How do you manage the value and costs of AI? As this is a big topic today in the conversation, moving FinOps beyond public cloud, we started to see emerge heavily last year, as also cost-aware product decisions. This is the aspect of how do we bring FinOps earlier into the product decision and architectural design processes to drive cost conversations earlier rather than later, as we've heard some great talks about. And as we said, lots of networking, interactive chalk talks that are 90 minutes that will require a sign up ahead of time, keynotes and breakout sessions, similar format to those who visit us in San Diego a few months back. I'm not going to go through all these, but on the website, there are a bunch of sessions up there already. There's more that are coming. Some people are still working through their final approvals and things to get them posted, but take a look at those and we'll have the ability for you to start, favoriting and adding sessions here shortly on the website. So as a lead into the next talk, many of you have heard us talking about the Focus project for the last, 18 months now, coming up on 2 years. It went from being a twinkle in our eye of something we could do to something that launched into the 1.0 at the Focus San Diego conference. And with that 1.0 came support from all 4 of the major cloud providers at the end of June of this year. Keep wanting to say last year, but it's still 2024, June of this year. So Focus aims to make understanding the billing data easier. It helps to accelerate your training and education internally of getting people up to speed on the concepts. It removes the need for you to normalize a bunch of different schemas between different clouds. And it does this really with the goal of helping you get on the outcome on the right side of this graph here, get to those business domains and FinOps capabilities that you're all trying to get to. How do I better understand my cost? How do I better understand my value? How do I optimize? How do I manage my practice? So clarification point I always like to throw in there, Focus is just a schema. It is not a product. It's not something you used on its own to do FinOps. It's a schema that enables the clouds. It enables the FinOps platform providers, the FinOps service providers, and the practitioners to have a common language, a common schema that they can align around. So the clouds are outputting data into Focus format. The platforms, you see a list of them on our website on the Insights article, are in taking the Focus terminology and concepts into their platforms. The service providers as well are helping to get practitioners understanding how to use the Focus terminology in their organizations. And the whole idea is here, how do we get better trust in the data, all speaking the same language globally across clouds and across providers so that we can help advance the practice. So with that, I wanted to get into our first talk of the day, which is by Kumar from Heineken. Kumar's based in Amsterdam, and he's also going to be presenting at the FinOps X Europe conference. And we thought his talk around both how they have evolved their internal technology management processes into a proactive model with FinOps, but also how they're looking to extend their Focus use and their FinOps practice beyond public cloud was a great teaser for this event. So Kumar, welcome to the summit, and over to you.
Yeah, thanks, JR. Hello, everyone. I'm Kumar. I work as a Cloud Foundation team lead at Heineken. My main responsibility in the Heineken is engineering and cost management aspects. Today, I'll just quickly walk through about some of the key challenges that we are facing in our journey towards focus. And before I go into the details, quick overview about our company. So I'm sure no special introduction required for Heineken, but it's well-known brand across the world, and we are the #1 brewer in the Europe region. Our brands are present in across all 190 countries, 190 countries plus, and 350 brands as well. It also means from the technology point of view, we do provide hosting services to all our internal customers across the world, and cost management is one of the key aspects as well. Next slide. Okay, in our environment, we consume multiple services like Azure and AWS and Google. And additionally, we do have the private cloud and in the multiple regions. And also we do have the multiple managed service providers as well, where they will provide the technical support. And generally, we on the day-to-day basis, we support 80 plus operating companies in 4 regions and global functional teams as well. It means it's like, especially the show and charge back is very important. I mean, relating to the public cloud, private cloud, and managed service providers information. And especially when we are managing the public cloud, the main challenge for us is like a lot of data. I mean, especially if you really want to show that the reservation details and then usage data, literally we need to process like 5 to 6 GB of the data from each and every provider for every data sets. It takes a lot of time and a lot of analysis, and not easy for the analyst or normal engineer to understand all those aspects with the current state. We noticed that with a recent announcement from the FinOps and cloud providers, we start experimenting focus and focus format data. Based on our test results, it looks very promising. And we hope that this one will help to improve our process, and then it will be much easier in the future. And at this moment, our biggest concern in our environment mainly is managing service providers costs and the private hosting costs. And let me explain why we need some standards like focus to address these gaps. Can we move to the next slide? Okay. In the past, I mean, especially in our environment, in the past, it was very straightforward. We used to offer services in a very controlled manner. That means we used to have one private cloud and one public cloud, one service provider to manage all this environment. And of course, on top of that, and we used to have some kind of local hosting services closer to the brewery, where it's required to be near to the brewery operations. And plus, we do call it as a credit card clouds, means because it's very controlled environment, sometimes it's not easy to get some kind of innovation related activities. So the people used to go to used to use the credit card to buy the cloud services and then deploy. That's where we have the very limited visibility, and then we only receive the cost, but we do not have any technical visibility. So it's a kind of, I mean, it's a simple, but again, it's very rigid model. It was not very flexible. In nutshell, organization point of view, is not ideal setup. So based on the new business demands, we started adopting enterprise landing zones approach. And as part of this approach, we improved our hosting. I mean, we increased our hosting options, like multiple public cloud services like Azure, AWS, and GCP and IBM. And also, like, we do have the multiple partners to provide those services. On top of that, we also start offering like a self-managed services. That means people who, as the DevOps team, they can manage the environment by themselves. In that sense, it's like more flexible as well. And most of these things we control through the policies and through the tagging and so and so on. And again, this is not completely new way of working. Basically, it's like a old way plus new way. In the sense, like, we do have the managed service providers to offer the service, plus on top of that, they can also manage their environment by themselves. So this is great flexibility. Again, innovation wise, it's really cool. I mean, a lot of organization wise, it's a progressing well. But again, it also brings a lot of complexity as well, especially in terms of the cost management, because managing all these different providers costs and self-managed landing zones operations costs like can be tricky because every partner starts sending the information on their own standard format. Including all those formats into our internal reporting, it can be sometimes tricky and challenging as well. That's why we start considering focus now. And also let me explain what I mean here, like especially in relating to the self-managed landing zone. Can you move on to the next slide? Okay, so especially self-managed learning zone is mainly managed by the local team. I mean, from the global point of view, yes, we do have the visibility on the whatever the platform that they choose, either Azure, AWS, and all those things. And all the central license costs, we'll be able to get the visibility. But especially if the self-managed, if the team managed locally, and probably sometimes they may be engaging their local partners from the application point of view or the local regulatory reasons, whatever the reasons, they may be using it. They are also start paying that information somewhere. From the technical support point of view, it can be simple and straightforward, but from the organization point of view, we may not be able to get all this cost information into one place. It's like a one analytics place, basically. So in that sense, like because the reason being that all the local providers they maybe start sending the information in their own standard format, different excels and different information. It's not easy to fit all those different standards into one reporting section. That's where technically it become like an engineering problem. That's where we start looking at some kind of standards that can simplify all this process, and then we can make it as like a global view, so that much easier from the in terms of budgeting and planning as well. Next slide. Let me also quickly give you what I mean of this non-standard Excel files, right? This is extracted from one of our previously one of our service partners' monthly recurring charges input file. This Excel sheet was the days from where we created for non-electronic consumption purpose. It was mainly created for the human readable format. If you look at like a lot of colors and a lot of columns, and yes, from the reading point of view, maybe much easier. It's easier for the people to understand. But if we really want to translate all this thing into report structure, technically it's like it's like very challenging. So it's like especially like handling numbers and a date format. If you look at the date format, it used to be like 30 days. It's not easy to translate all this thing into the which month and all those things. Yeah, column length is also very challenging as well. Before we unpack this our focus journey in the past, it literally took like more than 6 months for us to like fix this file. Just one partner's information, trying to bring some standardized format. When we look at all our past fix, when we start comparing with the focus, we see many similarities. Fortunately, focus is really documented very well, making them much easier to understand and much easier to resolve those kind of common challenges. Now imagine if you're having consolidate costs from all the partners and then cloud providers and this self-managed, call it as locally managed environments in the different formats. If you do not have any standards like focus, it's like a kind of very impossible to bring all these costs at one bucket, one view. So that's why I personally think focus will play the big role in this domain. Next slide, please. So anyway, so at the Barcelona event, I'll be sharing more insights we have learned from our challenges and how focus can help streamline. So, and especially my favorite topic on this part is like X factor handling. Yes, one hand is discounts, and other part is like additional costs, especially when we are talking about private cloud environments. There's a lot of legacy things, and how do we tackle those additional cost information? How do we create the visibility? That's also one of the important factor. So I'm going to share more insights during the Barcelona event. So looking forward to see you in person. And until then, during your free time, enjoy your Heineken beer and cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Kumar, so much. I think that is the first time we've had your. Oh, and there's the timer. You nailed your timing. Perfect. Thank you, Steve, for the timer. That's the first time I think we've had beer branding on the summit, so that's exciting. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I mean, the way that you're obviously we wanted to hear the story through how you're using this in the public cloud side, but we're also seeing a lot of pull, as is the topic of this larger webinar around summit rather, around how to get other types of spend data into formats that align within supporting the FinOps practice. For where Focus stands right now, this is the focus.finops.org website. There are the 4 major cloud providers who've begun to support this data. And as we see this, both the practice of FinOps expanding out into other types of spend and look to whether Focus or when Focus will do that, there's sort of 2 paths here. And this is our kind of ongoing ask for where Focus sits right now, which is if you're using any of these 4 cloud providers, which I think you probably are if you're on this call, just go turn it on. Go to the website here, go to the cloud provider, enable the Focus feed and start looking at it. A lot of these feeds are, first versions out. So the Focus specification, people who are running that, we're going to hear from one of the maintainers here shortly, want to know feedback on the Focus specification. What should we be doing next? The clouds themselves want to hear feedback about their own implementations of it. And we want to start to get your insights as to where Focus should go over time as we move into future versions of Focus. And on that topic, I wanted to welcome one of the core maintainers on the Focus open source project, who was really instrumental in both the getting the last version of Focus out as a practitioner maintainer, both contributing a ton of direct expertise and also helping really drive through a lot of consensus in projects and conversations. This is a consensus-based program with over 100 contributors and I think about 10 maintainers. And Karl has really stood out as a great shining example of how a practitioner can share their knowledge to help advance the industry for all. So Karl, wanted to welcome you and also get your take on what's happening in Focus right now with the 1.1 that's happening and what you expect to see coming up.
Thanks. What you said at the beginning of the call is absolutely right. Focus is just a schema. However, I've got a slightly different take on it. You said it's not a product. I would say it is a product to differentiate it from a project. A project has an end. A product is always being worked on and improved. And with 1.1, we're iterating on what we did in 1.0. We're creating more fields to enable CSPs to communicate their information in a standardized way. There are a number of different components that are going into 1.1, but from my day job, in Walmart, I'm most excited about a few new fields that will enable FinOps capabilities around unit economics. Specifically, we've got a few fields coming for commitment discounts as well as SKU properties. The number of times I've been asked, how much are we paying per core in this region on average? How much are we doing in this slice of our storage? Those questions come up on a regular basis, and we're adding SKU properties. That's something I personally worked on, which will enable the cloud service providers to give that sort of information directly to us. But as we said, it's just a schema, and it's going to take some time to get all of the cloud service providers into exactly the same and right format that we're desiring to come out of this. So it's always being worked on and always being improved.
Thank you, Karl. I love the reset on project versus product. And so it's not a product that delivers FinOps in and of its own. It is something that I think we'll see continue to evolve, right, for the clouds themselves, and to look to other sorts of data sources. And those are the conversations that are happening right now in the Focus specification is this great group of maintainers and contributors that involves the clouds and practitioners and vendors and consultants are putting the finishing touches on the 1.1 ahead of its release at the FinOps X Europe conference. But they're also now already heavily engaging in the conversation about what goes into the 1.2 release, and both trying to get inputs for scoping of that and to improve the processes around how to get more involved. So on that topic, ways you can get involved from left to right. You just want to explore, join some of the community calls, take the free training on Focus that's out there. If you want to start using it, go turn it on at the clouds. There's a Focus user group that is for people who are using Focus but don't necessarily want to be contributors, right? Lighter touch. Then there's a certification Focus analyst And then down the road, and once you become more heavily involved, we also are welcoming more people to join as contributors and move toward being maintainers, as Karl is over time after contribution. So there's ways that you can contribute, indirectly by sharing use cases through the user group, or directly as well over time by providing inputs into scoping or the specification itself. This group of maintainers meets 5 days a week. They have 90-minute meetings 5 days a week. They are spending amazing amounts of time and effort on focus in addition to their day jobs and the asynchronous amount of work. You don't have to get to that level, but they could definitely use your support in turning it on and giving them feedback on what's there so far. So thank you for everybody who's been working on it. The FinOps Foundation, as I mentioned, is funded by membership and training and certification. We have over 150 corporate members now, including all the major cloud providers and a lot of the largest technology organizations in the world supporting FinOps as both platforms and service providers, and also end user practitioner organizations who are consuming clouds as part of that. In a bit, we're going to hear from Chris Reed at Priceline. Priceline is one of these premier members, and Chris sits on our governing board. But before we get to him, we like to do introductions to new board members and new premier members who have joined in between summits. And we've got three. It's a big group, great group of folks who all contribute in different ways to helping drive the strategy and defining where the FinOps Foundation invests its funds to support the community. And we're just going into our October board meeting where we do our annual budget approval to figure out where we want to invest into things like the regional conferences, support for focus, running these webinars, supporting that giant Slack that you're all in. These are all things the governing board helps funds to support the community. So with that, wanted to give quick introductions. These folks will hopefully get longer times later as they come back in other forums, but wanted to, I'm going to actually do these out of order because I know Alon from Point 5 has to leave early. So actually I'm going to start with you because I know you've got a hard stop in a few minutes, and welcome you to the foundation. Alon, you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Absolutely. Thank you, JR. So I'm Alon, the CEO of Point 5. Actually, most of my background is in cybersecurity, and I also had a cybersecurity startup, but at some point I just fell in love with FinOps and decided to found a Point 5. Although we bring a lot of our security experience into the world of FinOps, applying it to FinOps, things like a research team dedicated to creating advanced algorithms to map inefficiencies in cloud deployments, or a full suite for response and remediation to cloud cost issues, including full context and remediation tools. So bring a lot of cool and innovative stuff into this space. Great to see a lot of familiar faces we work with and hope to partner with many of you.
Welcome, Alon. And yeah, it was great I think we got to meet initially at the San Diego conference 2 years ago, and it was great to see you come back and join the foundation and get more plugged in. Welcome. And likewise, somebody we've been talking to for a long time, and Reggie, I know we met in London early this year when PwC was trying to get together and get joined, and it's awesome to welcome you as well. So Reggie, can you take a minute and introduce yourself also? Oh, we'll get you unmuted. Sorry about that. There you go.
Great. Yeah, so good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at in the world. So on behalf of PwC, we're delighted and honored to be part of the FinOps Foundation officially. A little bit about myself. I'm a partner at PwC in the UK, where I lead our cloud economics and FinOps practice. I'm based in London. And I have the privilege of working with a diverse range of organizations across various industry sectors. Over the past few years, my focus has really been on three core areas from a cloud economics and FinOps perspective. Firstly, helping organizations establish the economic case for cloud by articulating, and we talked about it earlier, but measuring the business benefits. Secondly, driving immediate cost savings through resource and rate optimization. As many of you know, it's always a challenge to not just identify opportunities, but to get others to take action. And then thirdly, assessing and setting up the appropriate governance controls and processes from a FinOps perspective to ensure sustained optimization. Additionally, I'm passionate about the evolution of FinOps into other disciplines, including areas like cloud sustainability, software asset management, and of course, FinOps for AI. And just lastly, before I hand it back over, at PwC, we emphasize the broader business benefits of cloud rather than purely looking at it from a technology perspective. And I personally believe that this aligns perfectly with the role we see FinOps playing in organizations, not just achieving cloud efficiency, but also measuring and realizing the broader business value of cloud. And incidentally, the latest projects I'm doing with my clients are all in the areas of cloud. A lot of them are in the areas of cloud unit economics and cloud business value through KPI measurement, whereas a couple of years ago, it was all about rapid cost optimization and FinOps maturity diagnostics. So look, I'm thrilled to be joining the FinOps Foundation as a global board member, and I'm eager to collaborate with all of you.
Welcome, Reggie. I think that was a good highlight of how things have shifted, in the last couple of years. Great to have you on board here, and I know you joined our London event that we had in last year there. We're going to have another one of those in April in London, and I think you all are going to be at the Barcelona event as well. So hopefully folks can meet you there. Also wanted to welcome Ben from Vantage. Vantage has been around for a number of years in this space, and we've heard really great things about them. They're just coming to join the foundation now, but they've also built a really great community on their end around their product, and it's great to see them bringing their community and their expertise in now as well to join forces with the FinOps Foundation. So really excited to have you here, Ben. Welcome, and please take a minute and introduce yourself to the community.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's good to be here. It's good to see a number of familiar faces. I'm Ben Schechter, co-founder and CEO of Vantage. We're also the maintainers of ec2instances.info, which is used by a bunch of folks in the community. A little bit about me. I used to work at AWS and DigitalOcean, so I was on the side driving costs for a number of years, now trying to help folks on the other side for the last 4 years actually remediate those costs. So really excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I'll keep it short and sweet, but looking forward to the rest of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Ben. Welcome. And hope to get to see you in Barcelona as well. With that, you'll hear from all these folks in the future. We try and give a little time in the future presentations for new members to join, but wanted to get some introductions going as they came in. So with that, let's talk a little bit about some of the updates that have been happening in FinOps training and certification land before we pass over to Chris at Priceline. So this will go to Stacey Case from the FinOps Foundation team.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's so great to talk to you about this. Many of you have seen this if you're at FinOps X, but one of the most common questions that I get is, which training should I take? And for the long time, the answer, it was really simple. FinOps Certified Practitioner was the only option, so that was what you took. But as FinOps has evolved and our community has grown, so has our training catalog, and it has not always been clear to folks which certification or training is right for you. So we've moved away from that one-size-fits-all approach. And like I said, at FinOps X earlier this year, we introduced recommended training paths to provide clear guidance for each persona. So when we look at this diagram that's on the screen, we can see that each persona has the primary recommended training or certification that is marked with a check mark. And then there are additional or optional trainings that are indicated by a plus sign. So for example, if you look at the leadership persona, this often requires a broad understanding of FinOps to communicate effectively with other personas, but it doesn't need to dive in too deep. So for this, we actually just recommend that free Introduction to FinOps course for folks that are truly in that leadership persona. But on the other hand, we have the FinOps practitioner, and FinOps practitioners need that much deeper understanding, which is why we recommend that all practitioners become FinOps certified professionals. So the goal of doing this is providing you and your team what you need to make the decisions to make sure you get the correct, training and certification that meets your needs and builds out your team. Now, obviously right now, y'all could take a screenshot of this if you want, but it is also located in the FAQ section on learn.finops.org. So you don't have to ask me later where to get this, but you are welcome to reach out to myself directly or anyone on our training team if you ever do need help in understanding what exactly should you and your organization be getting for training. So just reach out to training@finops.org. We are so happy to help you out with that. But right now, what I really want to do is stop talking, and I want to hand it over to one of our amazing members and recent FinOps certified professional. We have Tammy Burnitt, and what she's going to do is she's going to share how she's been applying what she learned in the FinOps certified professional course into her own practice. So Tammy, take it away.
Thanks, Stacey, and I really appreciate you inviting me to share my experiences and my learnings. and what I'm working on now. So my name is Tammy Burnitt, and I work at Shell. I'm the Senior FinOps Manager for Shell Oil Company. I've been around FinOps a long time, probably since about the 2017-18 timeframe, probably predates the book. Started the FinOps program at Shell, founded it in 2018, received my FinOps practitioner certification in January of 2021. And then, as Stacy mentioned, I completed my professional journey. I think it was about a year and a half, probably a little long, but I finally finished that in June, and I was so excited to come to FinOps X and speak as a newly appointed ambassador as well. I'm on the Adopting FinOps work group additionally. So I wanted to talk today a little bit, though, and maybe share some of my experiences and what I'm working on today with those of you that may think, well, I'm a seasoned professional and I've been doing this a long time, and, why would I need to take the FinOps Professional course? And I just wanted to share with you what some of my takeaways were and some of the things that I learned in the course and what I've actually implemented and what I'm starting to work on today. And so I'd say for me, there were three key opportunities and takeaways from the course for which I leveraged. One of them having to do with the allied personas. And I'm obviously in the energy industry, so wanted to bring that sustainability component in and bring that in from, a decision-making perspective. So, modeling workloads and deploying workloads, but also bringing it in for cost optimization and reporting. And so we've been bringing our sustainability into our third-party tools, our reporting, also education and enablement. We're working on new white glove workshops and boot camps to educate our engineers and other personas within the company, sustainability, and so on, to make sure that they understand how to deploy affordable and sustainable workloads across the organization. We're in several clouds, so you can imagine it's a pretty global enterprise operation at Shell. Another thing that we've been doing is looking at automating our rate optimization. And this falls in two categories, really, to push the savings lever even more, and also efficiency gains. When we automate and digitalize certain capabilities that previously were handled manually, we free up resources to go and work on other great FinOps opportunities. And so one of the things we're doing right now is looking at how can we automate via a third-party tool some of the procurement of our RIs, savings plans, and spot instances. So that was another big initiative that came out of the program. And also, I'm really proud of this last one. This is where you start to look at, and I think we talked about it a little bit earlier in the summit, looking at partnering with other organizations. And I would like to just take a moment to talk about our intelligent operations team and observability as a service, and where this capability bleeds over into workload optimizations, and talking about dynamic provisioning and auto scaling. And so we're partnering right now with our intelligent operations team to automate some of our workload optimization across the enterprise, which again frees up efficiency gains, frees up people to go work on other things. And it really, again, if we're trying to move the needle on savings, it gets to the savings a lot sooner and takes a lot of that manual work out. And so I hope for those of you that are considering professional, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to ask any questions, but it's been such a positive experience. The people that I have met, the information that I have learned, and I've been able to turn it around and bring it into my practice and my program has been just paramount for me and for Shell.
Great. Thank you so much, Daryl. I hand it back over to you.
Tammy, I want to echo Rob's comments in the chat, which is, what a huge, supporter and help you've been in building out, advancing the pro inserts and just being a great ambassador. You're right. I remember seeing your name out there in the space before the book, before the foundation. I remember when I finally met you, but I'd seen your name around for a few years in this space. So it was great to see you get more plugged in, and thank you for
thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
I also have the FinOps license plate. So if you see me in Houston, Texas, wave and say hello.
I'm aware of 3 of those now in different states. I tried to get them in California. It was not doable. So I don't know California FinOps, but give it up, please. That's awesome. Great. So wanted to welcome, actually, I always love when there's a fellow San Diegan in the house to share. So Chris Reed from Priceline, who I get to see in person more than a lot of the rest of you because of our close localities here. But they've got a great practice around how they're not only applying the FinOps strategies to clouds, which they've been doing actively for a number of years that Chris is going to speak on, but also to other types of variable consumption-based spend like SaaS and SaaS management. So Chris, excited to have you sharing this story, and welcome to the summit.
Yeah, thanks for having me, JR. So, a little bit of an introduction to myself. Chris Reed, Senior Director, IT Finance at Priceline. And we're going to dive a little bit into an increasingly critical topic here within FinOps, which is optimizing SaaS spend. So, I know at FinOps X, there was a portion where we talked about optimizing SaaS spend or applying the FinOps principles to SaaS spend, in addition to applying FinOps principles to multiple other, which is why the summit is focused today on beyond the cloud. So we can move on to the next slide. We'll talk about a little bit of an intro to Priceline. So our mission here at Priceline is to be the world's best travel deal maker. Our CEO pounds that into every single CEO update that we have, and it really is true and core to our mission. And so what Priceline does is we offer the marketplace for people to go and book travel, and also facilitate an opportunity for hotels and flights to have full occupancy as opposed to having room rates or rooms go unused, which hits their price line or their bottom line. So a little bit about our cloud journey. In 2022, we finished our migration to GCP, and began our cloud journey. We nominated some cloud efficiency champions. We had training that was provided based on the cloud cost tooling that we utilize. In 2023, we kind of implemented our cloud FinOps principles. So we have a team here that consists of no full-time roles yet, but we're all kind of putting our hands in the pot. One of my colleagues, Chris, and then one of my colleagues, Phil, all have this makeshift FinOps team that we're trying to continue to get the ball rolling on and put in some business cases together. But this year, what we've really done is created better visibility into our forecasting consumption and our base cloud spend, enabled some anomaly detection and putting some decision gates around policy and governance. And so looking forward, what we're trying to do is formalize FinOps training within quarterly goals within different product teams. But then also, as members come on board and new hires come on board, enable FinOps as part of their own onboarding process and those trainings that we have access to. If we want to move on to the next slide, we'll get deeper into how we can apply some of these FinOps principles to some of the SaaS challenges. So, there's 3 points here today that I wanted to touch on. We've seen how rapidly SaaS tools are proliferating. Every department is adopting new tools, often without centralized oversight. And so this leads to shadow IT. I put here so many tools, so little time to work on seeing what exactly is available out there or what we have access to. And then when multiple departments purchase SaaS independently, it's really hard to track where the budget is going. There's these things called corporate cards that people have access to that they can just go ahead and charge whatever they want up to a certain limit. And then you don't find until those people are no longer with the company that, hey, XYZ had this particular software on auto bill for the past 3 years. And that leads to inefficiency and really overspending. And so additionally, with SaaS pricing models, they're often complex. There are a couple of things that were talked about at FinOps X with regard to pricing models. You have license-based, you have usage-based, and then there are, I would call them XX base. So depending on what the stipulations are within your contract, there could be different pricing levers that are pulled. And so many organizations, Priceline included, was struggling to understand our true SaaS expense, right? We had a baseline, but there were so many variables that could be pulled at any given time that it was tough to really get our hands around. And so I'd like to talk about how FinOps really transforms SaaS management, and right on cue. So a couple of opportunities here, and you'll see visibility as a common theme throughout this conversation here, but really centralization of data. So aggregating all of our data across all of that SaaS tools to really understand our costs and our usage. And that goes hand in hand with accountability and ownership. So we are able to assign costs directly to departments in order to encourage responsible spend. And then we bring that up within our discussion. So I have a monthly tech finance meeting that involves myself, our CTO, our CEO, and our CFO. And I'm able to bring these things to light. And so when they have a question about a particular software, I have a very specific tech owner who is responsible for that particular vendor or supplier. And then visibility, full transparency into all of our SaaS subscriptions and spending. So, we're centralizing the data, which is a key FinOps principle. And then the accountability and ownership piece, which I just talked about, and assigning those costs. And that rolls into the visibility to create those data-driven decisions. Right? And say if you don't know where it is, or if you can't see it, you can't manage it. I'm sure you've heard that time and time again. But by analyzing those usage and spend data, we can actually make better decisions about which tools we invest in. And one of the things that we found is going through this is that we had a little bit of overlap of tools that did the same thing, or suppliers that we had, SaaS suppliers that we had, that really we weren't implemented in a way that allowed us to take full advantage of the capabilities that span across multiple other SaaS products that we had. And we learned how to optimize licenses and where to cut out cost. And then the last piece was, or the second to last piece was unit economics. So important to understand, to measure the ROI based on units that are important to your business. So one of the measures that Priceline uses as a company is cost per order, right? And if you're not in an order-driven business, that may not be important to you. So it's really important to communicate and convey those unit economics that are important to your core business. And so that's a step back that you'll have to take and analyze yourself, because I find it much easier to communicate that to LT on it with regards to something that is really important to them. So that's the hook for why this should matter to them. And then finally, benchmarking. Once we were able to centralize that data, create accountability, create visibility, measure it down to unit economics, we were able to really get a benchmark to compare our SaaS spend against industry standards, and then also similar platforms to ensure that we weren't overpaying. And then probably a familiar visual that you all have seen, right? Inform, optimize, and operate. And it's so interesting that this FinOps lifecycle applies not just to FinOps, but I mean everything in life, really. But specifically with SaaS, tracking those SaaS costs in real time and forecasting future spend is in your inform phase. And then an optimize phase, analyzing that data, looking for areas where we can reduce our spend and consolidate tools, or eliminating redundant services. And there's a couple of things in there that are like the low-hanging fruit, right? Eliminating redundant services. Once you have that visibility, you can see, oh, vendor A and vendor B really do the exact same thing. Let's just consolidate everything that we have here, and we're able to negotiate a deal with economies of scale and go down to one supplier on that. And then the last piece is operate. So it's all about the continuous monitoring. So SaaS management isn't just a one-time event. It's an ongoing review and adjustments to ensure that you're staying efficient. Those same principles and policies and life cycle that we apply to cloud FinOps today. And so a little bit about Priceline's SaaS journey. So I joined the company about 2.5 years ago. And we had probably about 180 plus suppliers just in the tech space, SaaS tools within the tech space. So we took it upon ourselves to really go in and gather what we had, where we had it, and why we had it. So license right sizing was one part of that. We aligned our licenses across the business to and based on our consumption to see what our actual usage needs were. And in some instances, we actually had to increase licenses, right? And in other instances, we were able to decrease. So it's important to understand that this isn't all about minimizing costs, but optimizing our costs and optimizing our expense within SaaS. We, off the back of all of this, we created this software renewal purchase triage committee, which I'll get to in the next slide. But after we were able to do all this, it really helped us in contract negotiations, right? We were able to go in and leverage the data that we had and work in a partnership with our procurement teams to be able to use that data during contract negotiations. And we had a really clear sight of line into that enhanced visibility, our improved spend control, and optimizing our license usage overall. So let's talk a little bit more about this software renewal purchase triage committee team. This is something that's relatively new to the Priceline world, but it came off the back of all of the FinOps policies that we applied to our SaaS spend. So what this is it's a proactive review with term dates that are within certain time ranges. So 3, 6, 9, and 12 months out. And we have team representation from our tech organization, our finance org, and our procurement. And how I mentioned earlier that we have to create accountability and ownership, each of the software owners presents a business case for the renewal. So, usually when you want to buy something, you have a business case that's set out, you kind of set that, and then you never really have to do anything again because we're just kind of on this consistent auto renewal process, or people become so reliant on those tools. What we've done at Priceline is we're really questioning that. Hey, back to your original business case, would you consider this a success or not? And what we do is the goal is to determine really one of the following here that you have. So we're either saying, hey, was it successful or not? Let's terminate the contract if it wasn't. Are we able to reduce any usage and seek to negotiate smaller, less expensive contract because maybe we bought everything, we supersized the meal, and we really only needed the burger, right? Or do we need to replace this contract with a lower cost alternative? So the tech owners are responsible for coming to that meeting and saying, hey, I've looked at market pricing. I've vetted a couple of vendors that are in a similar space within this software provider. And this is the best cost alternative in the space, but not only the best cost, but the best suited for our positioning within the market. And then the third is to develop a strategy for renewing the contract. And I'd say as low cost as possible here, because that's one of the primary focuses on with us in the moment. But really, it's with the most minimal impact to the business as well. And so some of the key takeaways, right? Start small. I know it can be a little bit overwhelming. I know I had to create a map when I first came in, but it's important to not boil the ocean, right? That 80-20 rule where 80% of your spend probably comes from 20% of your suppliers. So start with the big ones, get those quick efficiency gains early, and that success will breed confidence not only in your team, but in your senior leadership to go ahead and move forward and get people involved in this, right? Use those FinOps principles to really control and manage our SaaS spending. And whether you're starting your FinOps journey or you're looking to fine tune your SaaS management, I mean, these principles will really help you drive efficiencies and cost controls across your entire organization. And view procurement as a partner, not an adversary. I know there's sometimes this butting of heads as procurement being a blocker, but once we've created this visibility, it's really helped enable our relationship between procurement, and I work hand in hand with them very well. I have some common pitfalls to avoid here, which I won't go too deep into. And if you have any questions, you can Slack me directly. But really, on Priceline's founding mission that I said earlier, to be the world's best travel deal maker, I just implore you all to become your company's best SaaS deal maker. And then thank you for your time today.
Chris, that was great timing and great ending. I love that approach. So yeah, lots of questions for you in the chat. We're going to do Q&A sort of at the end here. Would love if you can stick on a bit, Chris, to answer some of those there in the chat would be great as well. But yeah, this is interesting. I mean, there's tie-ins obviously with people asking about can this come into focus, which we're commenting on. A lot of folks looking at that. There's some really similar themes here in FinOps land as well. I'm going to go back and not meant to go back, but like this is the first time I've seen this so clearly articulated, which is seems like an obvious process. Shouldn't we have this? And this feels like the early days of FinOps as well. And I think that's the thing we're seeing a lot happen, and why this Beyond Public Cloud thread is going. It's if you've got the FinOps team already in place dealing with this massive granularity of spend and real-time data, it's easy to add on additional types of spend to it. So it's interesting to see how that's evolving for you. So yeah, please definitely stick around if you can, Chris, toward the end there. Technical Advisory Council is there's 3 boards in the FinOps Foundation. The governing board, which we talked about, that manages where we invest our funds. The Technical Advisory Council is an organization that manages the FinOps framework and all the use cases associated with FinOps. And then there's the Focus Steering Committee as well, which manages the release cycle on the Focus side. This group defines the FinOps framework and make changes to it each and every year. And right now they are in the process of evaluating all of these themes we're looking at, beyond public cloud, how FinOps for AI integrates in, ways in which data should better touch into FinOps. This group, is involved with a lot of working groups and asynchronous work, but also meets monthly to look at those changes. So we're expecting to see, additional updates coming in the coming months around iterations on the FinOps framework as well, to start to touch into all of these areas. And building up for the FinOps framework, there are a lot of community outputs that are generally coming out as we go. One of the recent ones, long-standing working group called Usage Optimization, has begun to add additional information and better categorizations of generalized playbooks, cloud-specific examples, as well as really laying out better use cases for things that you need to do and examples of that. So check that out on finops.org/assets. It's part of our open source library. In addition, the KPIs working group has been busy. They've been coming out with a lot of great updated KPIs. There are 10,000 ways you can analyze and report and do KPIs and OKRs, or whichever model you want to use for FinOps, but they're continuing to find better examples of these. This is a great place for you to go and pick what works for you where you are in your practice. So as we talked about at FinOps X in San Diego, you're never really done. Change is constant. No one can exist in a full run state all the time and everywhere in their practice. So go leverage these playbooks to pick out the areas that you need to dive into that apply to where you are now to help you get a jump start. They're not going to be totally answer everything for you, but they're a great way to start building out and answering questions and build on top of. And if you see something that's not there, and all these are examples of that, propose them. Talk to our staff, propose them on the website, get involved with the working group. All these things have come out in the last few months. So this is where we want to get that flywheel going of all of you learning together and feeding back into the best practices that are happening. The FinOps Member Summit in Washington, D.C. is coming up. If you're in that area, please consider going to that. We'll get some great speakers, including Melvin Brown, who sits on our Technical Advisory Council, and others from the private and public spaces, sharing knowledge and best practices there. We also have a great ongoing series featuring women in FinOps that is monthly right now, and has Dr. Manisha in there, and she's been a huge part of the FinOps community for years now, showing up and sharing great knowledge, as well as really helping out a lot of other folks in the community. So excited to hear the latest from her. Sign up for that on the website. But on the topic of working groups and all the things, I want to touch into one of the hot areas right now. And I say hot because it's both, we're hearing it all the time. I would say it's in 50% of the conversations I'm having with practitioners in the community right now, as well as vendors. And I think there's a big debate about where the line here is. FinOps has, as Chris just laid out, moved into SaaS in a lot of organizations. We're hearing from others. We heard Natalie Daly at our conference in 23, and sharing more at FinOps X Barcelona in 24, talking at HSBC, talking about how they're doing FinOps in their data centers and on premises. We heard about Meta at the last conference, doing about FinOps in their private cloud. So we're trying to work with the community to line up where the FinOps framework needs to go, how we expand to cover those use cases that we're already seeing out there in the community happening. This was the slide that we used in the keynotes that showed how once folks start to get good at public cloud, typically what happens is the business says, hey, we really like what you're delivering in terms of real-time visibility and anomaly detection and quick access to the data and ability to allocate better and optimize better that we get in public cloud. Can we have those same level of capabilities in other areas? Can we do it in SaaS? Because we haven't been able to get anomaly detection in SaaS or better optimization. Can we do it in private cloud? Well, there's a lot of work there to figure out the data and the models. Can we do it on-prem to delay future investment into additional hardware? So I wanted to give the remainder of our time before we break into the conversation here to Dean Oliver. First of all, welcome to Dean Oliver. He has just joined the FinOps Foundation full-time this last month. Dean he's based in London or slightly outside of London. Dean has been in the community since the beginning. I mean, he was coming to some of those original Technical Advisory Council meetings in 2020 as part of his hat as a consultant at Accenture previously. He's been working with a lot of the people we mentioned, Natalie Daly, who's I just referenced in that previous article, HSBC. They've worked closely together in this, and a lot of you know him from the community. So Dean's going to be wearing two hats in the foundation, and Dean, I'll pass you to share more about that. But welcome to the FinOps Foundation staff, and excited to have you on board.
Thanks very much, John. Thanks for the introduction. I think you hit on a lot of the topics I was going to say, so I'll skip over a few of them. But yeah, as JR said, I was 15 years at Accenture before I joined the foundation very, very recently. So pleasure to meet everyone, and it's very exciting to be working on this side. I spent all of those years in technology strategy. So I was supporting the biz tech strategy alignment, and I was one of the global leads for FinOps and the services, and also supporting the tech value capability, which encompassed FinOps, TBM, tech ROI, and PPM. So it'll be brilliant to start to work with everyone and bring that insight into this topic and beyond this topic. If we just move on. So the big hot topic, as Jar said of now, in terms of FinOps Beyond Public Cloud, is, let me give a recent quote. I heard FinOps teams have been a victim of their own success in how well FinOps has benefited organizations, and they're now being challenged by the business to expand their existing capabilities and collaboration with intersecting disciplines to provide that increased bottom-up, real-time granular data insights to inform more proactive decision-making. And that's where the topic's going to start to hit on today. Before we want to just step down a little bit into that topic, what we want to try and do here is a very quick poll, and it will help just to visualize what environments and platforms our current FinOps community are being asked to expand into now, or will likely be asked to expand to in the next 12 months. So let me just give you a minute to do this, and then I will carry on.
Wow, responses are flying in. I think I'm the only one who can see them as host. So once we get a little further into those, we'll share out the results there. While we're waiting for that, one of the other things that Dean is working on is building up the UK community, which has been a vibrant community there, a lot of great practitioners. So he's running monthly community calls in the region there. And we do have a London member summit planned coming up in April that he's working back toward as well. So if you're in the UK or a short flight away, consider participating in their activities there as well. Give this one more minute. Okay, I love that I can see the results and no one else can. Should I hint at them? No, I'm going to wait just a minute. We click a few more buttons.
Drum roll.
Oh, one other note. There's a number of people hitting other, small number, but about 4%. Could you put into the chat what your other examples are? If you selected other, share in the chat what your others are. Okay. I think we've got some pretty decent answers in. Yeah, half of you have answered. So I'm going to go ahead and share the poll results. And, we can look at what we're seeing here.
So I think, as you can see on the screen, that the poll results are very, very transparent there, that there's at least 50% of the community hitting every single environment there in terms of where they're being asked or will be asked. SaaS and licensing are very much front runners, but they're very closely followed by AI and then sustainability and private cloud. It looks like there is a full set of our FinOps practitioners and teams being asked to do this. And it seems it's right in terms of the topic that we're hearing. Not every organization will be asked to do it, and it does very much depend on their IT landscape. But for those who are now seeking to understand how this can be done in the most optimal, efficient, collaborative way, the aim is that we want to help them to understand how we can do this, work with the community members on making sure they can better get together the wider data sets to get more bottom-up granular TCO products across the products and services, and help the business to fundamentally make value-based decisions on usage, workload placement, product viability, and not stick to the monthly reactive financial management reporting and insight cycles, and give that proactive real-time visibility that the business have got so used to with the FinOps capabilities and services that the teams are providing today. And that's really why the business are facing that challenge. They want more. They've seen how they can be reactive and the benefits of, being proactive and the benefits of being proactive. And they expect to see that for every single spend on technology in the way that they're seeing it with public cloud. And what we're going to do with the Beyond Public Cloud working group and the community calls, if we move on to the next slide, is start to look across the existing FinOps capabilities and skills that are there today, and agree and establish a set of practical steps that are suitable for the ask that the organization is making on that FinOps team. And a large number of them will be reusable. In the interest of time, I'll give a few flavors just to bring it to life a bit. But data analysis, for example, the teams today in FinOps world are already used to working with extremely large data sets in high frequency from numerous sources. And they've got tools and systems in place to automate those real-time insights. Why can't they bring the other data sets into there? Why can't they better collaborate and use the culture of collaboration across all those teams that they work with today, with the personas and the intersecting disciplines, to bring everything together and leverage the capabilities that are there today that might not be there within the existing teams, but by bringing that knowledge together and leveraging capabilities like onboarding workloads and including TCO and value decisioning into that, and evolving the allocation, invoice and chargeback to more the unit-based economics, the SKUs, and evolving the rate cards. Why can't everything start to move forward based on the ask that people are obviously getting based on the pull? And some of the activities that we're starting to see emerge and some of the topics that we want to really delve into with everybody is, how do you evolve the cost allocation rules? Data centers should use the showback and chargeback models like those used in public cloud, but how? It's an easy question. We all know it's very hard to answer. Why do we need to bring non-tech costs into it and quantify the allocation of non-tech costs? And that goes to Jar's point around how much do we really expand the scope, and where's the line on what the FinOps team shouldn't do? Budget cycle alignments between CapEx and OpEx spending, or unifying forecasting models. All of these things are emerging, if not on people's plates right now. So we really want to make sure we help and collaborate in the community in order to do that. So I'm conscious I'm running out of time. So if we just move to the next slide. I think the benefits, to summarize, is how do we accelerate what everyone is being asked in order to meet the aim that we set out, and the benefits of using the well-established FinOps capabilities, tool and collaboration, and intersecting discipline collaboration to meet the ask of the business. It's a single pane of glass, and the business want that single pane of glass to make decisions on complete real-time TCO data, to basically make sure they're making value decisions and improve profitability and improve the cost of the customers at the same time. And the simplified way of workings across the team and the clear end-to-end responsibilities and the interaction are certainly going to help that. And we've got lots of stories that you've seen today and that we'll start to bring to help you bring it to life and give the case studies. And I think the what next is really, The community calls are going to start to focus in drop-ins on this topic, so everyone can start to discuss it, and we will start to use the working group to bring the depth to life and to start to bring insight papers and various different new views to the group over the coming months. So very exciting topic, very much looking to work on this review, and I think there's going to be a lot of decisions we need to make together along the way.
Awesome. So lots of comments and questions coming up in the chat. Before we get into the open discussion, we'll allow people to unmute here in just a minute. A couple things, you can get involved in the community calls, which are set up for regional time zones, but are topical based. So you can join any community call you want as a member. And there is a Slack channel that we've just started. We'll probably get more people into shortly, but you can jump in there to have conversations as well.
Thank you for watching. We hope to see you during our next virtual summit. In the meantime, check out previous summits or the rest of our YouTube channel. We appreciate the support.